We we are live once again. Uh-huh. We shall wait a couple of minutes just to make sure that everybody is joining. Everybody's working for everybody. So if somebody, hey Josie, so if you want to give me a thumbs up, thumbs down to make sure that you guys can hear me on the feed, on the Instagrams as well as on TikTok. I would much appreciate it. And if I get some thumbs up, I will get started. So, Josie, hopefully you can give me thumbs up. All right. So it seems that you guys can hear me. In March 2020, I moved out of my apartment in the city to the middle of nowhere. I moved to my investment house. Imagine the most Canadian thing you can imagine: log house, top of a mountain, overlooking a valley and lakes. I ended up spending 2.5 years there. And, the first year and a half, I was by myself. And, when you spend that much time alone, you start asking yourself some existential questions. You start asking yourself questions that when you're extremely distracted, you don't have the time to ask. And over the past few years, over since I've passed, I spent a lot of time there. I've become more and more spiritual. And this is why today I wanted to ask you, what does faith mean to you? This episode of the Nico Lagan Show is brought to you by the Alpha Creator Blueprint. Are you a male content creator on a mission to help other men? Is your content not getting the attention that it deserves? Would you like to increase your views by 10, 100, even 1,000 times? If so, head to the alphacreatorblueprint.com and let us help you achieve your goals. Welcome to the Nico Lagan Show. I am your host, Nico Lagan. This is going to be a very personal one. Well, most of my stuff is very personal because it's the type of shit that people don't like to talk about, or at least don't like to hear about, because I always bring back the fault to the individual themselves. And this is something that I've been avoiding speaking about for a while now. um I'm not sure if it's because it's not because I'm ashamed. It's just that I don't come from a religious background. I don't come from a spiritual background. I come from, as you everybody out there, if you don't know, I'm Canadian, although my accent's probably telling you that I'm French. But from where I'm from, religion, spirituality was not a big thing. We never discussed it. It was not, it was not something that was tabooed or anything. It's just not something that we really talked about. And at the end of the day, it makes sense because my parents grew up in the 60s and in the 60s. And at that time in Canada, which for my American friends or anybody that is not in North America, um, the Canada was going through what we call the Quiet Revolution. Basically, what it means is that during that time, the government was putting more and more the government was getting more and more involved in public institutions. So they started creating a lot of those public institutions. They became more and more involved in economics, social, and cultural life, meaning that they got involved in every single aspect of the citizens' lives. And basically what ended up happening is that they took over, they took the power away from the church and gave it to themselves. Because prior to that, most people were religious, most people were very spiritual, most people went to church, most people listened to what the church had to say. So it was really, they took power away from the church and kind of took it for themselves. Now, we did, as a result, we started looking at the government to fix our issues instead of looking at the church. Basically, that's what happened. And that explains why religion was not discussed in my family. It was not something that we approach. And again, as I said, it wasn't taboo or anything. It's just not something that we spoke about. And I can until recently, until probably the past year, I can probably count on two hands. I can count on my fingers the amount of time that I had been in church, that I had been in a spiritual setting. It doesn't matter if it's church, it doesn't matter if it's a Buddhist temple, it doesn't matter if it's an Hindu temple. I could count on one hand the amount of time that I had stepped into a religious building. And you know, when I did move to the woods, as I say in French, I moved to the woods. When I moved to the middle of nowhere, I did get the chance to spend a lot of time by myself. And you know, when there's no distractions, well, there's no distractions. Although I did it at the height of the pandemic, it was back in March 2020. I moved to the woods. So what I mean by no distractions is that it's very easy to get to remove everything from your life. If I wasn't able to go to the gym anymore, I wasn't able to teach martial art, I wasn't able to go to bars, I wasn't able to go to the restaurant, I wasn't able to go to the movie theaters, I wasn't able to go anywhere anymore. And I decided, you know what, let's isolate yourself as much as possible, and let's start working on what goes on inside your head, what goes on inside of you, what you've become. Because one of the things that we do, and goddamn, I've done it myself, is we tend to grind and grind and grind and grind, and we often grind on the corporate world, right? We're grinding on things that don't really belong to us, so we grind in order to have a corporation or a bigger company make money, which it is what it is. Most people, that's what they do. But we tend to forget ourselves in the process. We tend to start associating what we do with who you are. So back then, I was a sales engineer for one of the biggest telecommunication companies in the US, in Canada, sorry. And I was very proud. I come from no education. I don't have um a university degree. I have a small computer technician degree. So being a sales engineer, working with a bunch of engineers and being basically the only engineer in the team that was not an engineer, I was proud of that. I was proud of what I accomplished, and it became who I was. If somebody would have called me, hey, what do you do? If somebody would have asked me who I am, I would have said I was a sales engineer. So this became really what I believed I was. So when the pandemic happened, I decided to, you know what, let's embrace this. I can't control what's going on, but what I can do is decide what I'm going to do face to that situation. And I decided to move to my investment house in the middle of nowhere. And as much as how many times have I seen memes online saying, "Oh, all I want is a small cabin in the middle of the woods, being away from people." But you know what? All the people that believes that is the case, I put you to the test to actually try it, to actually try to move by yourself in the middle of the woods. Because I got to tell you, very fucking different from living in the city where you're around what you're used to, where, as I said, you have friends, you have family, you have distractions, you have shit you can do every day. And I didn't have any of those, but I did it on purpose. I wanted, that little voice that you hear inside of you, your intuition, your, however you want to call it. Let's call it, for sake of argument, let's call it your intuition. That intuition that tells you, that talks to you, that you listen, or do you listen to or not, that's a different subject. But that voice that talks to you, that you're capable of drowning out with distraction by watching Netflix, doing shit with your friends. I didn't have that anymore. I was in a situation where I needed to listen to those voices. And it doesn't take you very long to realize that you've lost yourself. You actually really, you've been, as a sales engineer for 10 years, I had forgotten who I was. But this was finally my chance to actually figure it out again, to see who I was, what I've become. And that's exactly what I did. I spent, outside of doing all of my meetings on Zoom and Teams and stuff like that, I spent most of that time alone. And I was there with my dogs. And, you know, imagine the type of place where you can walk your dogs in the middle of the street without a leash and not meet anybody. This is the type of place I lived in. There was the only time, the only time I really saw people is when I went into town that was about 25 minutes away. and I would go to the grocery store. But outside of that, I would see my neighbors every now and then. But we lived in a very remote area where if I did not want to see people, it was extremely easy to do so. And within a year, I took a sabbatical from work, and I I really wanted to push the envelope. I had spent so much time by myself by then that I really discovered who I was. I was really building my self understanding, if you will. And I bought a bike. I had just got my driver's license for a motorcycle, and I left for 3 weeks. 3 weeks with basically as much stuff as my bike could carry. So tents, food stuff like to cook, make a fire. I'll post some video. I'll post some pictures of it if you're watching the live right now. I'll post some pictures of it. But I ended up leaving 3 weeks by myself. I had an idea where I was going, but I had never been on a bike for more than maybe half an hour. I literally got my driver's license on a Monday. I bought my bike on a Wednesday, and 7 days later, I was leaving for that trip. And I traveled thousands and thousands of miles by myself, and I met some great people. It was absolutely extraordinary. Um, but what I'm trying to say is that when you spend a lot of time with yourself, you spend a lot of time exploring the world without distraction. Because when I was at that trip, I didn't have any goals with it. All I wanted is to spend time by myself exploring. I had no intentions. There was not a goal in mind instead of enjoying myself, and that's it. And I don't know for you guys, if you're a motorcycle enthusiast out there, I love my motorcycle exactly for that, because I don't have, like, I just bought a Harley, and it's a 1999 Softail, and you know what? There's no electronic on that bike, and I did it on purpose. There's no fucking electronic on my helmet because I want to spend that time that I'm riding in my mind, in my head, just enjoy fucking life. And this is what I started doing about 4 years ago. When I remove all those distractions, I started listening to that little voice that was inside of me, and that was 4 years ago. When you consider it, my girlfriend and I have been on this RV adventure, this crazy fucking RV adventure that we're on right now, and it's been 8 months that we left Canada and we've been traveling the U.S. But that was 2.5 years prior to that. I was in the woods. So for the past 4 years, I've been living a life that 99.9% of people can only imagine, and 99.9% of people will never have the balls or the courage to go after. And as much as I worked my ass off to be where I am right now, that I have a shit ton of courage in order to be able to do what we call burn bridges, to really I left everything behind. I left my corporate job. I left my life. I left 100% everything behind outside of my girlfriend and my dog. And I can tell you that if it wasn't for faith, if it wasn't for my faith, I would not be where I am today. And the whole point of this episode is that I wanted to give a bit of context. I know I've been babbling for like 12 minutes now, but I wanted to put this into context where I don't come from a spiritual background. I don't come from a religious background. This is not something that was taught to me. It is something that I've learned by spending a lot of time by myself. And you know, I want to quote this before I continue, because it's a quote that I absolutely love. Faith moves mountain, doubts create them. This is, you know, I have 5 virtues to a good man. You have to be a protector, a provider, you have to be courageous, you have to have temperance, but you have to have faith. And faith is not added at the end because it is the least important. The reason that faith is number 5 in my 5 virtues of a good man is because it puts everything together. This is where magic happens. This is my faith gives me purpose. It, you know, understanding the reason why you are on this earth allows me to go after my personal legend, to go after my purpose. And this is all because of faith. And Are you I was thinking about this morning, and I'm curious, are you uncomfortable yet? Anybody listening to this, is it something that makes you uncomfortable to speak about faith, to speak about religion, to speak about spirituality? And I want to know, so if you're on the live, I would love to hear what you have to say. If you're on the podcast, please go on the YouTube channel and put your comments on under where the video is going to be posted. If you're TikTok, Instagram, please let me know. I'm very curious if you guys are uncomfortable now. Are you guys consider yourself spiritual? Do you guys consider yourself religious? I'm really curious to see who I'm talking to. I'm curious to interact with you guys, and faith is personal to me. I don't share blessed though. Well, you know what? That's a message from TikTok. And I appreciate that. I understand most people are like that. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I was until today, I never really spoken about this. So I feel you. I understand why you say that faith is personal. And I absolutely agree with you. It's just that I feel that I need to be the guy that is kind of a bridge between uninitiated and understanding what it could be, because we're all aware of the downfalls of religion. We all know the bad shit that happens. We all know that dogma is not good in any sense of the way. It doesn't matter that it's societal or it's religious. But one thing, one thing that I want to put out there is that I am a very spiritual person. Am I religious? I don't know yet. I'm still exploring that. I'm still, for the past month, let's say 3 months, we've been going to church on Sundays, and I'm really exploring that part to see if it makes sense to me. But one thing is for sure is that I do not need a third party between me and God. I speak to God every day. I have a very personal relationship with God, and I don't need a third party. But I understand why people go to church. I fully understand it because the community is amazing. We were there yesterday, and it's simply amazing. There's such great people. The two pastors that were there were fucking amazing people. And I've met so many great like I met so many great people over the past 8 months that we've been exploring the US, going to church every now and then. Now it's becoming more and more, and Josie and I are really integrating it more. We're happy that we're going, but we've met such great people doing it. It's absolutely amazing. And I'm going to go into it a bit further in a few minutes. Right now, I really want to put into perspective what faith means to me. And I hope that I can help you understand that without faith nothing would happen. Like, nothing good in this world would be there if it wasn't for faith. And let me explain before before you remove me, you stop listening to what I'm saying, because I know the word faith does have that effect on people. I want you to let me explain what I see faith is, because to me there's three types of faith. You have faith in yourself, you have faith in others, and you have faith in something bigger. Those are the three types of faith. And just for sake of argument, just so that we can do a little exercise between you and I, let's let's replace the word faith by believe. And I will repeat my three types of faith. So I said, so faith in yourself becomes faith becomes so faith in yourself becomes believe in yourself. How can you ever build confidence in yourself if you don't first believe in yourself? So self confidence starts with belief in yourself, and belief is faith. So you need faith in yourself in order to build confidence. My number two was faith in others. So replace faith by believe, and it simply means believe in others. How can you ever expect to build trust with another human being if you don't first believe in them? And the third one, faith in something bigger, becomes believe in something bigger. How can you ever find your purpose, your reason for being on this planet, if you don't first believe that there is a reason for you to be here. Do you see how faith is simply believing? Believing is trusting that it's going to happen, that there is something out there helping you, that something out there is there to help you. That's believing in something bigger, believing in somebody else. Think about your friends, think about your relationship, think about the people you spend time with. You had to have faith in them first in order to trust them. You needed to have faith in them to believe that they are the person they said they were. And the same thing applies to you. You have to believe in yourself in order to accomplish anything. If you want confidence, if you want to achieve self confidence, you need to be able to have faith in your capacities and your capabilities. There's no way around this. This is what faith is all about. And I'm hoping that this is making sense to you. I really hope that I'm explaining it in a way where you can see how most of our interpretation of religious texts or religious principles are really biased. We hear faith, automatically we attach that to religion. Automatically we attach that to somebody that is dogmatic, that believes in everything the Bible says to the word, that will never doubt it, that will call you a sinner. Or you think about somebody that's spiritual, that's a granola, that's a tree hugger. But yet faith is just belief. It is just to believe. No matter what it is to believe. It seems to. I'm going to take time. Man, I'm really happy to see this. I have a few questions coming in, so I'm going to take time to answer them. It's refreshing seeing someone talk about faith. Well, I really, really appreciate it. Oh shit, brav them. How you doing, brother? Yeah, I really want to start talking about this more, and I really want to put it more into a perspective of a non-religious person. Just I'm just an average guy that spent a lot of time by myself, that came to certain conclusions. Another comment says, so important that we're all different. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you very much, brother, and absolutely right back at you. Thanks for taking the time. um Sorry, I'm just going through the text here. So it seems like actually what I'm saying is making sense, because I've never taken really a lot of time to explain this. So I appreciate all your comments. Um, Another comment here says, I think that the kingdom of God is inside you and all around you. I would agree with that 1,000 fucking %. You have to love and have faith in you first, and after you give to others. You know, this is also something very well said, absolutely very well said. Comment on TikTok. I totally agree with you. Um, you know, having faith in yourself, having love in yourself. This is also something. This is interesting. I never thought about this way, but you could potentially replace. You could replace the word faith by love. If we go back to what I was saying, this is a very good point you're making. I think Tiny, no, Tine on TikTok. It's a very good point you're making. So so let's do this for a second. Faith in yourself could be love yourself. Faith in others could become love others. Faith in something bigger could be love something bigger. Something bigger could be the universe. Something bigger could be God. Something bigger could be the planet. Wow, I never thought about this before. That's very interesting. I really appreciate that comment. Well, you can replace faith by love. See how this kind of continues in the flow of ideas that I have, that faith is something that you need, so is love, so is belief. That's beautiful. I never thought about it this way. Beautifully, beautifully, beautifully said. Another comment. Hey, Daniel Graham. Oh, Jeebus. That's been a long time. We've known each other since I was about 14 years old. I try to share the most of my knowledge, experience, good or bad, to my daughter. I never do wrong to people unless they hurt my family or loved ones. I won't give chances to hit me twice, that's for sure. You know, I appreciate that. I It's hard to disagree with you. It's I've struggled with what you've said there, because I want to be a good man. I want to be, and I believe that if you look at, if you understand faith the way I explain it, if you you know I bought a Bible the other day. I have a couple of Bibles. I have the Old Testament and I have the New Testament. And because I've been spending more and more time in church, I've been getting around a lot of people that are in church. I've met incredible, incredible people through church. And you know, to me, the a book like the Bible does not teach me about life in general. It does not show me what life is about. But what it teaches me is how to make sense of my experiences. So, there's a principle in the Bible that talks about how Jesus spent 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness, and he met Satan, he met the devil. And if you take it for what it is, remove the religious component from it, take it for, imagine that it is a story. And I like to think I like to think of religious texts as psychological stories. So imagine that you got somebody like me that spends a lot of time by himself, which is what Jesus did. He met Jesus met Satan. I met my inner self, and I got to tell you that some of the things that inner voice was telling me was not necessarily nice. So who's to say that Satan is not a portion of you? Is not just that low voice inside of you that's self-deprecating, that's always talking bad about you, that's always saying bad things about you. And normally that voice gets really loud when you're alone. You really need to confront that in order for it to make sense, in order for your life to make sense, in order for everything around you to start making sense. You need to confront what you're made of. The yin and the yang, the yin yang applies to people. You're good and you're bad as well. It's 50-50. And it is, I can tell you, it's a daily battle for me. I'm always battling with my bad, and my good and my bad are always fighting. It's a daily thing. And to go back to what Daniel was saying, we all have good or bad, absolutely. But you have to remember that other people are like that too. So I never do wrong to people unless they hurt my family or loved ones. This is a very broad this is a very broad way of talking. But the only time I would ever consider hurting somebody is in a self-defense situation. If somebody attacks me and I need to defend myself, my girlfriend, my future family. But outside of that, words or people doing bad things to me, I can't control that. I can only control my reactions to it. But unless I'm in physical danger, I will try to never harm anybody else physically and psychologically. But I get what you're saying, brother. I get it. Now, man, I've been babbling for 28 minutes. Jeebus. Jeebus. Is there any questions off the live feed? Because I'm seeing there's a lot of questions coming from all over the place, and I'm hoping that I address them all up to now. But if there are questions, please let me know, because I'm running out of time here. But this is definitely something I'm going to go back into. This is a subject I want to talk more and more about, because you know what? I'll finish with this. I was in church yesterday, and I was there with Josie, and one of the guys. The reason why I'm Colorado is a guy that approached me online, and that the church that he goes to. And turns out he was there yesterday, sat right next to us. And the pastor was saying that you need to speak about your belief. You need to speak to other people around you about your spiritual belief, and that it is one of your duty to do so. And it really talked to me. Like, it seemed, one of those speeches where the guy seems like he's talking to you directly. This is how I felt yesterday. So this is actually why I'm speaking about faith today, is really because I attended church, and he spoke. We were hundreds of people in there, but somehow his message seemed like it was targeted at me. And this is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So If my message of today speaks to you, please let me know. If my message speaks to you in a way that you want to explore what faith means to you, I'm really, really happy if that's the case. I really, really, this is why I do what I do. So if this is something you want to talk about more, please comment on my stuff. Send me personal messages. I love to speak about these things. If it's something you want me to speak more about, please let me know because I will do so. And until then, until next time, I want to take. I want to tell you that how grateful I am for every single one of you. Without you guys, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I really, really appreciate. I'm really grateful for every single one of you, and always remember that the world is changed one man at a time, and it takes just one man to change the world. Until next time, peace out.